For my book, I chose to read A Streetcar Named Desire by Tennessee Williams. It's a Southern Gothic novel, and basically, a girl named Blanche comes to New Orleans to stay with her sister and her sister's husband, Stella and Stanley. And Stella and Stanley are not what Blanche is used to. Blanche is used to a nice home in Laurel, their hometown. It's called Belle Reve, but she lost it because after Stella left, she had a really hard time taking care of her parents and her whole family and just keeping the house up and everything. And she lost everything once everybody died. So she didn't know what to do, so she came to stay with Stella. And Stella lives in a basement apartment of a really rundown building with in a bad, not necessarily a bad area, but it's called the French Quarter, and it's not the nicest area, and it's not what Blanche would have hoped for Stella. And Stella and Blanche haven't seen each other or really talked in over 6 years, so Blanche isn't really doesn't really know her sister, and her sister and Stella doesn't know Blanche. She doesn't know what's been going on or anything. And Blanche comes in and she really sells herself and makes herself seem so great. And Stanley doesn't buy any of it. He's just really sick of Blanche taking all these baths and not really taking care of anything else and worrying about herself. And he just really doesn't want her there. And Blanche and Stanley's friend Mitch start to have a little relationship go on. And Mitch is really responsible out of all the friends. He takes care of his mom. He's just trying to look for a wife and settle down and everything. And he really thinks that Blanche is that person because Blanche really sells herself and makes it seem like she's who everybody wants her to be. But Blanche is really not who she says she is at all. She really lies a lot, and she just doesn't really get the concept of reality. And it's really interesting because in the middle of the book, she comes out and says, in the middle of the play, she says, "I don't want realism, I want magic. I try to give that to people. I misrepresent things to them. I don't tell truth. I tell what ought to be truth. And then if that is sinful, then let me be damned for it." And it's really interesting because Blanche doesn't see herself kind of losing it and losing touch with reality. She sees it more as like a gift to people to not tell them the truth, that she's saving them or she's helping them try to see things differently. She doesn't see that she's actually losing herself and her sense of where she is in life and who she is as a person. She just is completely consumed with this overall kind of like aura of being something better than she really is. And she takes a lot of baths to clean out everything that internally and externally she thinks that baths can do everything. She always feels so much better. She drinks more than she says she does because she really doesn't see how bad her drinking problem is. She doesn't like to be seen in really bright lights because she doesn't want people to see who she really is as a person. And Stella kind of just goes along with it because that's how Blanche has probably always been, but throughout the book she gets progressively worse and worse, and Stanley sees right through her. He knows everything. He even goes out of his way to try to find things about Blanche that might not have been found if he didn't look for them. Like, he has hookups that he says that really expose Blanche. And Stanley has his problems himself. He's really abusive to Stella. He drinks too much. He doesn't really have anywhere to talk because he's also losing himself. He drinks, like I said, he drinks too much, and he just runs away from his own problems by this new person, Blanche, who he doesn't know anything about, and he's totally not sold with. And Stella takes in all of it. She does not see that anybody could lie to her. She doesn't think that Stanley is abusive, that he just cares about her so much, and sometimes she just angers him, and Blanche would never lie to her. It's her sister. That's just how she always been. And it's a really, really back and forth thing between Blanche and Stanley because Stanley's the man of the house. That's where he lives. That's his home. But Blanche is Stella's sister, and Stella's going to stand up for her. So it's really hard to see Blanche go through all of this and Stanley fight her back about it. because Blanche doesn't even see it happening. She sees it as something that's helping people, that's making them see what they want to see. She wants to be everything that she really isn't. And that's how Mitch sees her. He sees her, he doesn't see it through her lies or anything, and he loves that. And Blanche is just so infatuated with him. She thinks he's the right man because he is the most respectable out of all of Stanley's friends, and he has a job. He's really caring for his mom. So in that time, a real gentleman, it was in like the 1930s, 1940s, a real gentleman was something hard to find and that you really wanted to strive for. That's what you wanted in a husband. You wanted to settle down with somebody that treated you well, who was respectable, who really liked you, who had goals and wasn't a heavy drinker or cared about nothing. Like Mitch was on the right track. So it's what it comes down to is basically if Blanche would ever find herself and stop lying or keep lying to everybody, or if Stanley just tells everything he finds out, decides to expose Blanche. And in the media today, or in the world around us, we have a lot of misrepresentation like Blanche does, because you try to sell things better. Lies sell great, glamorous things, like Blanche really likes into glamour. She doesn't like seeing herself in highlights or anything, because that whole image is just something that people want to see. So the media, even our individual selves, will say something to make ourselves cooler or really exaggerate a story to make it seem like it was more fun or you had a better time than you really did. And I really felt that because you see it on Twitter, you see it in the news, everything is just so over exaggerated to make it sell. Like everybody wants something really exciting, and that's what Blanche is trying to give people. She thinks that's what they want, but really in the end, it's hard to connect with people that don't necessarily tell the truth. You have to know somebody to really have that connection that Blanche wants with Mitch, or she wants to have with her sister, and she wants people to accept her. They have to accept her for who she really is, rather than who they all want her to be, because everybody can want something different from you. And I don't think Blanche understands that. So she's so many different people. She has so many different images that she tries to put on and stories that she tries to tell, and they're all lies. And you really don't know who Blanche is. And throughout the story, her lies get worse, and she gets caught up, and Stanley will start calling her out on them. She's like, wait, what? Like, that's not true. That's not what happened. But if you go back in the play, it is what happened. That's what she said. And it's just an ongoing process, and that's how lies can be, and that's how exaggerations can go. It never stops. It's just a snowball effect, and that's basically what happens to Blanche. And it's a progressive play because of how you see Blanche go from somebody that you thought was somewhat respectable and somewhat sane and everything, and just everything that everybody had driven her, just meeting new people and wanting to be a part of that so much and be better than them because she knew that they didn't have a lot. It just completely put her under them. And that's what the play is about, just how that really took an effect to Blanche. And even Stanley just got caught up in the fact that this lady was in his house lying to him, and his relationship with his wife went down, his relationship with his friends. His friends were like, Stanley, you're drinking too much, you need to stop. And he just got so caught up with everything that it was hard to stop. And that's how everything is. If you are doing a bad habit, it's hard to stop. Lying, exaggerating, drinking, bathing too much because you think it's just a habit, and habits are really hard to break, especially in the play. They're so bad.